Are you looking to learn the 5 rules of trust and estate planning? Well, stick around because today on 5 Friday Feedback, we're going to be uncovering everything you need to know about trust, wills, estate planning. And I think Dominic has a pretty amazing question that he left from last Monday's pod. So if you haven't heard Monday's pod and you're unaware of 5 Friday Feedback, we basically do a recap of what we talked about on Monday's pod. Just doing another high level. We talk a lot about philosophy, my thoughts on the world, on today, trust, estate planning, and everything else. We usually talk about Star Wars a little bit. After that, we'll go into 5 Friday Feedback, viewer mailbag, and then we'll finish it off with win of the week. So please stick around because we have an exciting viewer mailbag. First and foremost, Dominic, we had a question last time about trust and estate planning that I wanted to kick it off with your question, and then we'll kind of go back and talk more about trust and a little bit more other things, whatever questions you have.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, my mostly hate relationship. I don't like to use the word hate, but highly dislike relationship with the IRS, the taxes and whatnot. Not a big fan of paying taxes, me personally. I do pay them, for the record.
Yeah.
I do, I'll probably preface there. I do pay the taxes. But I was wondering, could this be a way? I know we talked a little bit about the tax advantages of a trust. Obviously, that's not why that's not why you make a trust. We understand that. But
yes.
I make food, might as well make it delicious, right? I make a trust, well, there's tax benefits, might as well learn about it, right? So I'm curious about this situation. I'm going to present a situation, and I want to see if this would be the best way to handle it, right?
What?
So you've got a father and you've got a son. The father has some rental properties, and he wants to give one of those rental properties to the son. If he just sold it to him for $1, you'd probably pay a lot of taxes in it. But what I'm wondering is, since the house is in a trust, if he sold the house to another trust or transferred ownership to another trust, how does that work? Would there be a massive taxable event?
Yeah. And are you saying you own the other trust?
I would say that, yeah, I own the other trust.
Yeah, no, it would still be selling it between them. It would be the same as selling it between people.
Damn.
So that doesn't make a difference. Like a trust, I think one of the reasons people get confused on trust is because they do get an EIN number. An EIN number, for people that don't know, is basically like a business social security number.
Yeah.
So it's
identification number.
Yeah. So EIN, they do get an EIN number. So people get a little confused as to, like, they think they're like these special entities that do special things, but just think of your trust as an extension of you. That's all it is. It's an extension of you. And it's a pass-through entity, just like a LLC is a pass-through entity for your business. And that whenever money you make passes through to the owner, unless you get an S corp, it's a little bit different. Same thing with an irrevocable trust versus a revocable trust. It's like setting up an S corp on your LLC.
So basically, I've heard this on TikTok, and I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want it to be true, Chris, but basically, the best way for him to transfer that house to me is basically for him to die. Basically. Yeah. Okay. That's okay. I don't need the house. I don't need it. My dad's worth way more than any house, way more than a billion, trillion, millions. I would much rather have him here alive.
Yeah. That's the way to look at it. That's a big way to look at it. And I think a lot of people, they get confused on that. They're like, hey, I want to leave my kids all this stuff while I'm still here so that I can make sure that they enjoy it. Yeah. If that's the case, I would say, like, if you have extra money, use that extra money. The gift tax inheritance, in order to hit like a gift tax, I think right now the number is like $13 million of like gift tax when we even start getting taxed. So right now, I think each year your dad can give you $18,000 free and clear. Don't have to report anything to taxes. Even if he gives you $19,000, he has to do an additional form with his taxes, but he is not paying any additional in taxes. Just that $1,000 now is being tracked for the $13 million inheritance tax that you might go over. So a lot of people will sit down on TikTok and they'll talk about, oh, you want to avoid inheritance tax and all this stuff by setting up a waterfall trust and doing all this BS. First off, inheritance tax is only triggered at, I believe, $13 million. Now, there is stuff in Congress where they want to lower that amount, but right now it's $13 million. And I don't deal with what Congress might do. I deal with what Congress currently has on the books. Yeah. So the best way for your dad to give you those assets, if he wants to give it to you now and you guys are willing to pay the taxes and everything, that's totally fine. But I've seen people do it when they're in their 80s and their 90s. Like, I want to give this to my kids right now. And it's like, if you would just wait it another I don't know, 5-10 years. I don't know when age someone's going to die, but let's say 5-10 years and you die. If you bought that house back when houses cost 5 raspberries and a nickel, and now that house is worth $1 million. So say you bought the house at, I don't know, $100,000. Now the house is worth $1 million. Now, if you sell that house to your kid, they're going to have you're going to have a $900,000 capital gain. And your kid's going to have to deal with all that. But if you wait till the day that you die, then your kid inherits that house now at a cost basis of $1 million, as if you purchased that house at $1 million. That's the rate that the kid got it at. Same with your brokerage account as well. So this is part of the estate planning, right? And setting up, like, how do we distribute these assets in the most tax efficient manner? And that's where sometimes a trust can come in and be helpful to distribute those assets so that you're getting the step up in basis and doing it all the right way. Because unfortunately, most people screw this up.
So I'm curious. So why wasn't it a taxable event when he transferred it from his personal name into the trust?
Because he's still the grantor of the trust. He is the trust is an extension of him.
Gotcha.
And it's still a revocable trust. It's his trust. It's him. It just has his own EIN number, and it's now everything's titled in the name of the trust. But the trust is not some special thing. The trust is a folder. That is all the trust is. It's a folder.
Damn folder.
So don't think about it anything more than that. The trust is a folder that your dad has.
But what about the special room over at Capitol Hill? You know, locked, you know, security guards and guns, and you know, I got fingerprint scanners and whatnot.
And the trust police come out.
Yeah. You know, you've been there. You know about that. You know the trust police. Yeah. Got to give them drop my blood every time I join in, and it's a weird place. So there's none of that. So it's just a folder.
There is none of that. It is just a folder that your dad has. So that's the reason it didn't cost him anything additional. It did cost him a little bit. He might have had to pay, I don't know, 20, maybe $40 to the county to retitle it. So he had to pay that for processing fees. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's $40, maybe it's $50. He paid that. And then all they did is they sent him back a new title for the house. And instead of it saying, I don't know what your dad's name is, Dominic James Senior, it now says the Dominic James Senior Trust.
Yeah.
And that's all that was made done. But again, your dad is the grantor of the trust. So when someone talks about like, oh, I need to dissolve this trust and make it super confusing, dissolving a trust is grabbing it and throwing it inside the trash can.
That's it.
And then titling your house now back in your name. Trust is dissolved. There's no trust, please. There's no nothing like that. The trust is something that stays in your house and is only known by you and the executor. If you want to tell all your kids, if you want to put it on TikTok or put it on Facebook Live and stream every single page, you can. It'd be a stupid idea, but you're more than welcome to do that.
Yeah.
But it's your trust. No one else has access to it but you. Most estate planners they don't keep a copy of it. They'll keep the copy of the digital copy, but they won't keep a physical copy of it with them because no one wants that liability if someone breaks in and steals a bunch of trusts. Now they might have them all on PDFs that are encrypted. They might have that, but they're not going to, there's no place where they're all sitting.
Yeah.
That'd be silly because most people are updating their trusts. I've had clients when I was an estate planner that would come in every single year to update their trust because some people are so neurotic that they're like, oh, well, my niece said something mean to me, so I want to write her out of my trust. And now this and that. So if someone's coming in every 3 days to like write people out, again, they're trying to control money beyond the grave, and it's a useless gesture.
That's very interesting. That's pretty petty. Dude,
I've met some of the pettiest people in the world who say like some of the dumbest things about stuff. And, you know, it is what it is, and you're there to hear them out.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the problem that they're dealing with is a very different problem than they're trying to fix.
Interesting. Okay. So now that we got my question out of the way, let's get on with the 5 rules for the trust and the estate planning and all that. Do you want to get into that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So the 5 rules are: number 1, most people need a trust over a will.
Yes.
Remember what we talked about? A trust, and we're trying to think of a way to like describe a trust to somebody that's a little bit different. So, you know, when you open up an LLC, you open up a business, and that business is a separate entity from you, but that business is connected to you because you are the business. It's the same thing with the trust. You're opening this business that you are connected to because you're the owner of the business, but this business can't die. So when you die, you are the owner of the business. Now the business gets to tell people, hey, I was this business and I'm going to tell you how I want to pass things down based off of the successor, maybe your vice president of your business, which you told them you wanted things to happen after you died. Is that a good way of putting it, do you think?
I think it's a decent way. I think it's decent. Yeah, I don't think people need to know every single small little facet of a trust, and how there's like probably like 16 different versions of a trust, special trust, all these different things. You're going to get, usually 99%, you're going to get the revocable trust, correct? Perfect. You're going to get that. You're going to put your assets in it, right? You're going to put your bank account in it. You're going to put your house in it, and maybe even cars, maybe.
And let me clarify what in it means, because I've seen this before.
Yes.
People think in it means that I grabbed a statement from my bank and I put it in the folder. And now it's magically in the trust.
No.
Or I have my house deed and I put it in the folder and now it's good. No. By in it means that you have to go to the bank, to the house, to wherever you want to go. And now the owner of whatever that asset is now the trust name. Yeah. Not your name, the trust's name.
Yeah, because you can I can have 10 houses and have them in my trust. But if I don't change the ownership of the 10 houses to the Dominic James Living Trust, then they're not in it. They don't own it. So you got to get it retitled. You got to get it, all that stuff. You might have to do, like we talked about last pod, you might have to do something with the insurance to let them know as well, because there's been a change of owner, but same owner at the same time.
Yep.
Quick question. I'm just curious. How does that work? If, say, I brought a rental property, right? I love it. It's in the Dominic James Living Trust. I now have a family. 10 years down the line, I got a family, I got kids. We start up our own trust. We buy real estate in that. And I just have this one little property in this trust. And I'm like, I don't want this trust anymore. I know you talked about ripping up the trust, burning it, doing all that. But if I wanted to transfer that house to another trust that I'm half owner, but me and my wife would be, owner, would that be a taxable event? Because I'm still in control. Okay.
And then at that point, you're going to now eliminate the Dominic James Trust. And now it's going to be the James Family Trust or whatever. You're just going to transfer ownership there. You're going to have to pay the $40 to $50 fee to do that. And then that other trust, the Dominic Trust that has nothing in it, that trust is now, for all intents and purposes, dissolved. You can done.
Question.
Go for it.
Can you get a trust with someone else that you're not married to? So, like, let's say I have a brother. You can?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Because
yes, you can.
What I'm thinking, you know me, I'm a creative problem solver. My idea, my job is to come up with a solution. God, your job is to make sure the solution actually it freaking works.
My job typically is to tell you that that the question what you're trying to do can be done, but the amount of work you're going to put into it is not worth it. But yes, tell me your question and I will shoot it down.
Okay. Here's the question. Same analogy as before with the father and the son, right? Father owns the house. He wants to give it to the son. They don't want to pay any taxes. They don't want to pay too many taxes, right? If he just sells the house to the son for $1, you gotta have to pay a lot of taxes, right? Very expensive. What if, and stick with me here, what if the father and the son created a trust together and transferred the deed from the father's trust into their joint trust? Would it be a taxable event? Because he still has ownership, he still has power. Now the son has power too.
I would think that's more of a CPA's question, honestly.
Okay.
That's a CPA question, because what I would think would happen then, if that's the case, you now both own the trust 50%. Mm-hmm. So any kickoffs from the rental properties or anything like that is going to flow to both of you 50%. Mm-hmm. That's a taxable event for both of you. And then at the time of your father's death, you're going to have to buy out the other 50% that he didn't have. That's still going to be a taxable event that's going to happen because he's now going to go away.
So even though I'm in the same trust as him, as the not executor,
you're going to be a grantor at that point. You're not an executor.
A grantor, yeah, because the executor executes it. Okay, so I'd be the executor in this situation. I'd still have to buy him out.
Well, I mean, he'd be gone, so it's flowing to you. It's just yours, so you don't have to buy him out.
I will pay you out, no problem. Here's $50,000, no problem. And we're taking that back. It's in my own account.
Well, I mean, at that point, when he dies and it comes to you, it's just going to come to you with a step up in provisional basis anyway. So why are we even talking about this? I don't really understand.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. No, that's interesting. Because you wouldn't, if he dies, it doesn't matter. Because it's going to flow to the son anyways. But the object, the object is to do it before he dies, you know? The object is to do it so that you can utilize it while he's living, you know, and he can, you know, if he wants to rent it out or if he wants to pull some money out of the house to go invest in other property, you know, stuff like that. That's kind of what I was thinking.
I wonder, I mean, if that's the case, then why doesn't he just, because he can still gift you the house. If that's the case, like you still have $13 million in gift tax and then you can give that in the form of property as well. So why does he just give you that and then you just give him cash?
How much cash would it be?
I don't know. You tell me.
So if the house is worth $300,000, I'd give him $300,000. How does that? I don't.
If you wanted to, I mean, so
really.
if your dad wants to gift you a $300,000 house, he can do that. And like, what taxes are we incurring there?
Interesting.
You tell me, like, what taxes are you trying to avoid from your dad gifting you his house?
I think the thing we're trying to avoid was so something similar happened. So he bought a car from my great aunt, right? It was a 2014. She didn't drive anymore. She didn't want much for it. He's done so much for her. He sold it to her, or she sold it to him for like $2,000, right? $2,000-$3,000, like really cheap. Well, when we went into the tax office at City Hall, they questioned it and they said, well, we might have to do an appraisal on this and we're going to probably charge you more taxes than what you paid for it. So that's kind of what we're trying to avoid. Because if you sell a house for $1, then I would assume that's like, well, obviously this house isn't.
Because we're looking at property taxes.
Yeah.
So property taxes, I don't know how that would work if it's in the trust. I would think if you guys both own it, but then I still don't understand. So what does it matter if you own it or your dad owns it? If your dad owns it and he's bringing in rental property, he could just give you the money.
It's true. But what if there's like, I mean, it's true, but there's definitely like more than just the rental income you would want to get from it. Because there's a lot of cash tied up in the house, you know?
So then put into an LLC. You guys can both be joint owners of the LLC, put the LLC into the trust. And then from there, you could take the cash flow out of it. You guys could even refinance it together if you wanted to and take the cash out that way.
Yeah.
If that's what you're trying to look at.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at. To then go buy more.
That could be possible.
Could be possible.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so put it in the LLC and then put the LLC in the trust. In the joint trust? Or just in his trust or any trust? It doesn't really matter.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters, honestly. No. Because, I mean, unfortunately, what we're going down, like this rabbit hole, we're doing a lot of work to get literally no benefit. Like is it going to have benefit? Minuscule. But for the amount of work you're going to put into it, there are so many other ways we can do this. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. What's the underlying question? What's the thing you're trying to fix? Do you know what are you trying to fix?
Trying to take ownership of the house without paying taxes on it. So property tax or sales tax.
Always going to have to pay property tax. Why do you have to take possession of the house? Why can your dad no longer have possession of the house?
Well, it's not something that I necessarily want. It's something that was promised, right? So it was like, well, when you turn this much, you get a job, then I'll give you this house. Or something like that. So it's not so
for you to move into or for you to
do whatever I want to do. If I want to move into it or if I want to like sell it or if I want to refinance it and use the money for something else, something like that.
I think the best thing to do in that situation is keep it in your dad's name. Whatever you decide to do with it, you be the owner, you be whatever you want to do with it. You can be the manager of the house if you want to go that way.
Yeah.
They pay you and everything. And then when your dad passes away, you get that house with the step-up provision.
Okay. And it's just waited out that way. Okay. Yeah.
Based off what you said there, based off what you're trying to solve for, the best way is to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Or just
I was just trying to see if there's like a little hole in that system just to see. But yeah, no,
I think too many people they get so hung up on trying to like not pay taxes and like not do little things that you're gonna spend thousands of dollars to save on hundreds of dollars.
You think
and maybe
so?
not thousands of dollars. Yeah. Maybe not thousands of dollars in money, but maybe thousands of dollars of time, effort, bullshit, and then money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to calculate all that to save a couple $100 on property taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you just make it simple, let your dad continue to keep it. And then he just says, you're the manager of it. You be in charge of whatever you want to do with it. If you guys want to set up a joint, or if you want to set up a joint LLC to limit your dad's exposure to liability, I would recommend that for sure. So that way, in case you screw up, it's not going to wreck the rest of your dad's portfolio. You can definitely do that. And then you're in charge of it, getting paid. And then when he passes away, you really want to get that step of provision, because what you don't want to happen, he gives it to you while you're alive, and now you're having to pay the difference as to what he bought it at and what it's currently valued at. There is no way to avoid taxes. So many people are trying to look for like these crazy loopholes. Two things are guaranteed in life: death, taxes. Are there ways to minimize taxes? You can minimize them, but you cannot eliminate them.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, it was worth a shot. That was my question. I had to ask it. I love a good, deep, juicy question. So thank you for assisting me on that one. Getting back to the 5 rules. So we talked a little bit about, not everybody should have a trust.
Not everyone should have a will. Most people should have a trust. Assets should have a trust. If you have assets, but the type of assets are going to depend. So if your assets are only an investment account and maybe an IRA, most likely you don't really need a trust if it's just like you as an individual, because those have the transfer on death or pay on death clauses in them that are going to supersede a trust anyways. So it's very important. Part of estate planning is going through and making sure that your beneficiaries that are named on your IRAs or on your accounts are the right people. You need to make sure that that's correct, because God forbid in your trust, it says, I wanted to go to my first wife, or sorry, on your IRA, it says, I want to go to my first wife, but your trust says, I wanted to go to my 2 kids, because the IRA is going to go to your wife, and there's nothing you can do about that. It's going to happen automatically. The moment that the first wife comes forward with a death certificate and says, hey, Dominic died, here's the death certificate, I'm the beneficiary, she gets the money. It's done.
Interesting.
You can go to court, you can fight it all you want, but it's already a done deal.
It's done deal.
Yeah, so people should get a trust if you have assets. If you have assets. Number 2, you need to make sure that you're updating your estate plan regularly. I say get it reviewed every 5 years by someone who's a professional, and then have it updated every 10 years. Meaning that you're going through and like revitalizing the entire thing. And of course, that's where you're going to want to talk to a trust attorney, right? They can look at the trust and think, this still holds. Nothing's really major has changed. Some trust places will even offer like discounted re-updates.
Oh, that's nice.
But if you're the kind of person who's going in there every year to write somebody out or write somebody back in, like again, you're doing a bunch of hullabaloo for really no work. You're just paying an attorney a bunch of money for something that might or might not happen.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah. It's weird because not everybody understands the difference between wills and trusts. But with a will, you have to go through probate court. Guaranteed. With a trust, you don't have to go through probate court unless there's something that is...
Unless it's contested.
Unless it's contested, right. Gotcha.
Most trusts go uncontested, because most trusts, if you set it up correctly, you have a good executor and your trust. And this is where like if you have that's why I said, like, if you have a complex trust, like if you have multiple marriages, if you want to write a kid off, if you have a special needs trust, you probably need an attorney.
Yeah.
The attorney is both going to work with you to make sure that your wills are done, that the will that you want to happen, it happens. But also your attorney is going to dissuade you from trying to do things that aren't worth your time. For example, I want to write off one of my kids because they didn't show up to Christmas last year.
They got me a bad gift.
Or they got me a bad gift. Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. You can write to the trust. Timmy doesn't get it because he got me a bad gift. You can do that. But an attorney's going to tell you that this is the statistics, that if little Timmy decides to challenge that trust, because a trust doesn't mean you can't get sued. There's no legal way that you can tell somebody not to sue you. It's actually illegal to put on things that they can't sue you.
Really?
Yeah. You can get sued for anything at any time. Like that's the way the world works.
Even if you sign and say that if
you have like a non-disclosure agreement, you can still You can still sue for it. But once you get into court and they show the non-disclosure agreement, you automatically just lost. And now you just paid all the lawyer fees.
Interesting.
That's where like an NDA might come in.
Gotcha.
But same thing with like writing off your kid, right? You write off little Timmy. Little Timmy could come in and say like, I'm still liable for 33%. Like 33% of my sister deserves some, my brother deserves some, and I should get 33% too. And he's going to have to plead his case in front of the judge and say, hey, I'm sorry to get my dad the right gift for Christmas. And most judges are going to look at that and be like, he wrote you off for a gift? Yeah, okay, 33% all the way down.
Yeah.
But again, I can't give wide sweeping that this is what's always going to happen. But just like use your common sense here. What do you think is going to happen in that situation?
Simple enough.
Yep. Number 3, choosing the wrong executor / trustee could be detrimental to your trust. So it is very important that you choose the right person because they have quite a bit of power, not in like a real sense, but in that they're the ones with the trust who are saying what the trust says, and they don't have to show other people the trust. So a lot of people think it has to be my oldest child or it has to be this other person. It could be your youngest child. It could be the kid that you like the most. It could be the kid you like the least.
Whoever's the
If
most
you have no
responsible.
one in your family, that's normally what it is. Who is the most responsible person that you have? And also, whenever you're setting up an executor, there's an old thing I used to use in estate planning is you don't want to have an executor who's on the same bus as you are. So what that means is me and my sister are the same age. If we're both in our 80s, I don't want my executor to be my sister who is also in her 80s because statistically, we're both going to die around the same time. And that means that the executor in the trust is now going to be nullified if there is no executor. Typically, most trusts will have a
secondary
subsequent executor, a secondary executor, but you don't want to do that. You want to avoid that entirely. So you want to get someone who's on a bus below you. So ideally your kids, or maybe even a grandkid, something like that, someone who isn't going to die around the same time as you. But you want to make sure it's somebody that you trust. And if there is no one in your family that you can trust, I'm going to wonder, like, who are you leaving everything to? Because you're going to have to leave it to somebody. Typically, if you're leaving it to one person, the beneficiary should be the executor. So for you, Dom, with your mother and your father, and them leaving you stuff, you should be both the beneficiary and the trustee. If you're the beneficiary and your parents don't trust you to be the executor, then you probably shouldn't be the beneficiary.
Really fun. That'd be a really funny predicament. That'd be really funny. Who's executing this? I don't know. Not you. Not you, Mr. Irresponsible. But I'm getting everything.
We don't trust you.
I don't know.
You see, so that's something to think about. How you have special needs, like maybe you have an addiction or something like that, and they don't want you to get that. That's where a special needs trust is going to come in, and that's going to be a very different scenario. Again, 99% of the people, maybe 95% of people aren't going to fall into that situation, ideally. So choosing the wrong executor, huge issue. The 4th issue is overlooking digital assets. So cryptocurrencies, NFTs, all this stuff is a huge wild, wild west when it comes to estate planning and how that stuff flows. Unfortunately, the best way to do this, and it's something that I still have in your trust. Some people will even have a section in there that has all your passwords written out and all your usernames and all the stuff that you have. And that's why when you have that trust, you're not giving it out to the world.
Yeah.
Because in that trust, it also might have the pour over will. And that pour over will is going to say, hey, I want my wedding ring to go to my grandkid or my special necklace. And this is where I keep that special necklace that I want to go places. That's why you don't want it as public record. You don't want public record saying,
this is where
my
special
special necklace.
Treasure.
Yeah, but that's what the trust is going to say. And that's what the executor, hopefully you have a good executor who's going to show up, unbury the thing and give it out the way that you want. Because if no one else knows that that's there, the executor, if you don't trust them, could just go there, unbury the thing, take it, and no one's ever going to know. Again, there are no special trust police that has another copy of the trust and is going to go and make sure that everything that you said or wrote down got done the way that you wanted to.
So true. Bing, bang, boom.
And then rule number five for trust and estate planning, you must fund your trust and you must fund it correctly. And this is the most difficult part of the trust. Most people think the most difficult part of the trust is meeting with a trust attorney or sitting there and listing out all your assets so you can figure out what trust is right for you or what things are right. And then having to sit there and sign your life away. Because I think, God forbid, it's like 20 something signatures. There's a bunch of signatures in there that you have to do, dating and signing it. Most trusts are going to have not only the trust, but also the durable power of attorney, your last will and testament, financial power of attorney. Is going to have all that stuff in one envelope so that you have the end all be all in one place. So most people think, okay, I finally decided Dominic's going to be my person. He's going to do all that stuff. I decided that Dominic and little Timmy and whatever is going to get this many percentages. All the hard work is done. No, you just did the initial starting. You just got to the race. You just got to the starting line. The rest of it is making sure that you put everything that you need inside that trust, everything that you said is going to go to people needs to go inside that trust correctly. And there are certain things that can't go inside of a trust. For example, an IRA can't go inside of a trust. You need to make sure that on your IRA, the beneficiaries are correct through the custodian that you have. Because if you put an IRA in a trust, now you lose all the tax benefits because the trust is not an individual.
Yeah.
And there are other accounts that are like that, but I'm not going to sit here and go into every single one because we'll be here all day. Most of those much so niche and specific to everyone. That's why the biggest thing that you could do when working with somebody is tell them your crazy ideas. And hopefully the person you're working with is going to get down deeper and say, what are you trying to solve for?
True.
Because oftentimes the idea that you have is going to maybe fix a problem that you think it's going to fix, but it's going to cause 10 other problems. So some people would be like, I want to have an irrevocable trust because I want to show that I have no money. Okay, we can set up that. We solve the problem that you have no money so that you can get into your assisted care facility or you can get on Medicaid. So we solve that problem. You have no money. You're now on Medicaid. Okay, but now I want to buy a new car. So can I get that money? Nope. That money is not yours anymore. That's owned by the irrevocable trust. So you just solved the problem of not having any money. So now you can be on Medicaid. So now you solved the Medicaid problem, but now you have no money. Like, what do you want to fix? What's the trade-off you're going for here? These are real cases that people have done. And once you set up an irrevocable trust, it is irrevocable. So don't listen to TikTok. Don't listen to anything. Don't even listen to me. Go and get your own advice. Don't listen to some guy on the internet. Find your own advice. Do your own research before you do anything when it comes to this stuff, because people have put themselves in such bad situations by listening to something on TikTok, getting a 1% of the truth, and then going out there and executing on a plan that was not right for them. Maybe that plan is right for some people, but not for you.
Wow. So somebody actually put all their money in an irrevocable trust just to get their income down or their money down to zero so that they would qualify for something. And then that money can't be touched.
Well, it depends on the way that you set up the irrevocable trust. And it depends on how you want it to distribute. But if you have an irrevocable trust, that is no longer. So remember we talked about the linking? We have a revocable trust that is just an extension of you. Once you have an irrevocable trust, that's like creating an LLC and then giving it to your neighbor and saying, like, you're in charge of this.
Interesting.
So having an irrevocable trust typically means that you have an executor who is a professional fiduciary who is now executing on the will of that trust.
Yeah.
Again, they're far more complicated than I just made in there. And I'm not going to go into it because for 99% of the people, you're not going to need an irrevocable trust.
Yeah.
But 99% of the time that someone's trying to sell you the benefits of setting up a trust that aren't avoiding probate, that aren't making sure that your things or that your beneficiaries are decided, that aren't choosing your executor, that aren't making sure that your assets stay private to your family. And they're trying to sell you on other things like creating generational wealth and doing all this other stuff. They're selling you a trust that an irrevocable trust usually doesn't cover.
Right.
And they're selling you on a promise that you don't know, you're not any of the wiser, because the only time the trust is executed is when you're dead. So they could promise you the moon. Yeah, when you die, your kids, they legally own the moon. And you die thinking that your kids legally own the moon. But you're dead. And it doesn't matter. Your kids don't own anything.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, was that number 5?
Yeah, that was number 5. So number 1, set up a trust. Number 2, make sure you're updating your trust regularly. Number 3, make sure you choose the right executor. Don't overlook digital assets. And number 4, you must fund your trust. And funding, again, means putting all the assets you want in the trust, given that the asset needs to go in the trust.
Simple as that.
And that's one other question.
That's a whole nother podcast, really. My goodness. Okay. So
this stuff it's complex, but it's not as complex as people make it out to be. If you focus on the most important thing, if I'm setting up a trust, I'm setting up a notebook. And in this notebook, I'm going to say, when I die, I want these things to go to these people based off these percentages. You can have a pour over rule where you say, I want this specific plant to go to this person. I want this specific cup to go to this person. And you're hoping that your executor is going to come around and give the plant to that person, give the cup to that person. But at the end of the day, they don't have to. There is no trust base that's going to come and make sure that little Janie got her plant. no one cares. It all stays in the family.
That's the truth. That's how it is. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that portion of the podcast. If you guys want more in-depth podcast on that, I guess you could go back to last podcast or Monday's pod, where we had about a whole hour talking just about that, you know. But yeah,
and if you're interested in getting more direct information on a trust for you and figuring out what's right for you, you can always reach out to me, Chris at monzonwealth.com. Be happy to talk with you and most likely charge you for my time, where we're going to sit there and go over what's going to be right for you. And hopefully I can dissuade you from whatever it is that you might be thinking you're going to do. But if you have $1 million and you think, I want to leave my $1 million to 30 different people, and if anyone challenges it, then I want them to be written out and to go to the other 29 people. But if they die, I want it to go to this other person. But if that person dies, I want to go to this person. None of that's going to happen. So I can just tell you that that's not how it works right here and now, and save you a lot of time, effort, concern for something that you have no control over. You can't control money after you die.
So give it away while you're alive.
I'm a very big proponent of
that. Okay.
Unless we're trying to maximize for tax purposes, like step up provisions, then that's a different issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that being said, we're getting on to the next portion of the podcast, my personal favorite part of the podcast, if I'm being 100% honest with you. This is where we read our viewer mailbag. I wish I had like a giant a giant burlap sack full of letters I can just pull one out, but we got a digital burlap sack. If you guys want to reach out to us, you're more than welcome to. You can email us at FiveGuysVideoPodcast@gmail.com. Probably the easiest way to do it. Or you can go on to the FiveGuys.com as well.
Yeah, the FiveGuys.com, and then go to feedback, and then just write it in right there, send it, and go straight to there. So either way, they both work. More detailed, the better. If you ask me, should I set up a Roth or traditional? That's not going to be selected.
Like, no, we like, me personally, I like a good juicy story. If you want to juice it up a little bit more, we're not against that. You don't have to come up with the end tagline. That's something that, our poet Chris here writes in. So, yes, with that being said.
But if you do, it's less work for me. And a descriptive subject line is helpful.
Yes, indeed. With that being said, it is now viewer mailbag time, my favorite time of the week, as I was saying. So, the subject line for today's mailbag: I am $2,500 away from being debt-free, and I am frightened about that. Howdy, Fi Guys. I am writing to share with you a significant moment in my life. Congratulations. We do love significant moments. Now let's see what that's about. I'm 34 years old, and I'm on the verge of being debt-free for the first time in my adult life. Yeah, buddy. The journey has taken 2 years of hard work and sacrifice to recover from the reckless spending that put me into this debt. I am now just $2,500 away from clearing my debts, a feat I can achieve in a month. That's pretty solid.
Wow. So he's $2,500 in 1 month.
That's pretty solid.
That's
good savings.
Nice.
However, instead of feeling elated, I'm feeling fear and uncertainty. Unfortunate. The idea of being free from my debt should be liberating, but I feel lost. For a long time, my financial life revolved around making payments and reducing my balance. Now I'm unsure of what to do next. The thought of me having disposable income is both terrifying and exciting. Without the structure of debt repayment, I worry that I might revert to old reckless spending habits. Oh, the freedom.
There's an old saying that I like. If you're worried about it, you don't have to worry. If you're not worried about it, you should be worried about it.
Dude, quote of the day right there. Quote of the day. The freedom to spend as I please feels like a double-edged sword, offering new opportunities, but also the risk of falling back into debt. As I make my final payment, this month that is, I remind myself that this is a new beginning. It's a chance for me to build a healthier relationship with money, and also to create a financial plan that prioritizes stability and growth. With mixed emotions, I step forward, hopeful, but still nervous about what lies ahead. Have you or anyone else you've worked with felt this way? Am I unique in this regard? What did you do after becoming debt-free? Let me tell you. What I do. Here's what I do. I go to my favorite. Listen, you know where this is going. If you've watched any of our channel, I'm going straight to the best pizza shop in town. I'm getting myself a meat lover's pizza, and I'm knocking down. I'm enjoying it. I'm filling up. Okay. We're driving then to the next ice cream shop, getting the best ice cream. Celebrating. Just celebrating, really. That's what me personally. You know, some people like to go to clubs. Some people like to drop money on a new Rolex. I'm telling you, a stuffed crust pizza with all the meat on it, that's where my heart lies, and you can't change that. Me personally. But who's this from? This is from Finance. Finances is tight. Future bright. My freedom's near. Why am I feeling fear? How about that?
It's a good one. Did you know? So I know you love ice cream. They're opening a Handles down the street from where I live. You don't know if you've ever been to Handles. Handles is a San Diego-based ice cream place, which is bomb. Yeah. And they're opening one right down the street from me when you don't live too far from me. So I would recommend when they open it, they have a Cookie Monster one, which is like blue. Dude, it is good. And I normally don't like chocolate.
Dude, I'm telling you, if we don't post next week, you know why. You know, we're going to Handles, boy. We're going live. A live pod at Handles.
It's because Dominic is in a
It could happen, man. It could happen. Don't count your chickens. It could happen. You never know. I will definitely look into that Handles. I will definitely look into that.
Yeah, no, it's good. Right down the street from me. So first off, to our writer, congratulations, man. Like, that's so cool to have paid off. I don't know how much debt you started with, but if you're making $2,500 payments a month, like, you must have been going ham at getting this thing dealt with. So I'm going to guess it was probably a pretty big amount that through hard work, dedication, keeping your head down and just sticking to the plan, right? I make money, I spend less money than I make, and I'm putting all that money, that gap, towards that debt and just trying to feed it as fast as I possibly can and get rid of it.
Absolutely.
What I think about this is, and I've talked about it before, and I keep on trying to harpen back to it, is that money is highly emotional, and sometimes emotions are completely illogical, right?
Everyone.
You would.
Your emotions are highly illogical. Your whole argument is baseless, man. Okay. I keep that away from the wife with that one. The mother's it. Okay.
But sometimes emotions can be illogical, right? Like, 'cause you would think for 99% of the people, they would think, I'm about to be debt free. I'm on top of the freaking moon. But she feels fear, or he feels fear. I don't know. They feel fear going into this because now everything that they've structured their life around, which has just been paying debt and getting so attached to watching that number go down. Now that's going to go away, and they're afraid, might I put myself inside the same situation? Like I said before, if you're worried, you don't have to worry because you're going to take the conscious steps to avoid that catastrophe. If you're not worried about it, that's when you need to worry. Typically what I find, people that put themselves into this huge amount of debt and they realize it, and then they go through the arduous process of getting themselves out of debt, will be very cautious to put themselves back into it. I'm a perfect example of that, of like not going into debt because you know what it can do. But people, unfortunately, that get into debt for bad reasons, declare bankruptcy, think of it as a redo, often will end up in debt again. And of course, I'm going to nuance that with not everyone who's going into debt, who's going into bankruptcy, is doing it by running up their credit cards and being stupid. That's not. Majority of them is because of medical debt. No, that's the majority of people. But for our listener, instead of feeling addicted to watching the balance of your debt go down, we get to have a new addiction where we get to get addicted and be happy to watch our investment balance go up. And I think that's way cooler because when you go down, that's great. You can eventually reach zero and you won the game. You're done. But when you have that, I'm investing to see how much my money can grow to, that's an infinite game. It never ends. You can set it as 1 million, 10 million, 1 billion, trillion, whatever you want it to go. And you can keep on having more levels of fun. I'm going to say that more levels of fun, the higher you go, it's diminishing returns. Over maybe $150,000, it doesn't really much matter, but up to you on what's going to be most important to you. So if I was this person, I would break it down to the 9 steps that we use. So number 1, hopefully this is already done because you're already paying off the debt. Do you have your deductible covered? Do you have an emergency or a crisis fund that covers your highest deductible? If your health insurance deductible is $2,000, it's $2,000. If your car insurance is just $1,000 and your dental insurance is $1,000, then we're going to have $2,000 in a crisis fund. which I like to have in straight cash, because if it's in straight cash, you're far less likely to spend it unless it is a true crisis. Step number 2, we want to get that employer match. Hopefully you've already done these 2 things. We're still getting an employer match. If it's 3%, 4%, 5%, that's 100% return on your money. So if you're eligible for a 401k. Step number 3 for the financial order of operations is pay off high interest debt, which you're about to achieve. So that's awesome. Once you achieve that high interest debt, and high interest could be dependent on whatever it is that you think is high interest. I say anything over 9% is high interest, maybe 7 depending on who I'm talking to. But credit card debt, always high interest. There's no good credit card debt. Get rid of that. So once that's gone, now we're going to make sure that we have an emergency reserves, 3 to 6 to maybe a year's worth of money available in a high yield money market account or a high yield savings account, maybe even like short-term bonds. Remember, that can be volatile, but you want to have money reserved. After that, we can start maxing out our Roth IRAs or our HSAs if we're eligible for one of those. So again, instead of just watching the money go down, watching the debt payment go down, we're now starting to get to see our money grow by putting into the market, putting into our traditional, our Roth or our HSA. And if you don't know what those mean, please reach out to me. I can explain those to you, or listen to our previous podcast, because I'm not going to go into that right now. But you can put money into these accounts and then invest them in something like the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow, a wide sweeping market index. Because if you don't know, if you're not paying off debt, I'm going to assume you're not going to be the next Warren Buffett. And maybe you could be the next Warren Buffett. That's going to take a lot of time and dedication. Rather than waiting to invest until you have all the right information, sometimes it's better just to get started. And getting started, if you don't know what you're doing, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is just use a broad market index and just bet on America or whatever index that you're going to go on. And I say bet on the biggest horse, which is the S&P 500, and just let it do its thing. After we are maxing out our Roth IRA, we get to max out our other retirement. So maybe if we have an HS or the 401k at work, max that out if you can. After that, you can choose to, after you reach 25% or 25% of your income, or you max it out, you can choose to hyper accumulate. So you can save money in non-qualified accounts. I love saving money in non-qualified accounts because unlike saving money in my qualified accounts that have special tax advantages, when it's in a non-qualified account, I can pull that money out at any time. I don't have to wait till I'm 59 and a half. And if you're pursuing the path of financial independence, you don't want all of your money in qualified accounts, because ideally, most people are reaching financial independence at 40, 50 years old, maybe even 30. And if all your money is tied up in qualified funds, well, now we can't reach it till we're 59 and a half. And we really can't call ourselves financially independent unless we're going to be doing Roth conversions where we're contributing all to traditional and then converting to a Roth, waiting 5 years. But again, that's high level tactic that you need a financial advisor like myself to help you walk through. Don't try doing that on your own. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot. If we get to hybrid accumulation, you can choose to start prepaying future expenses. Maybe a 529 plan for your kids. Start saving up for future weddings for your kids. Save up for a big vacation that you want to have. And then after that, we pay off all low interest debt that we have. Maybe we want to pay off the house. Maybe we want to pay off any personal loans that we have from somebody. But at that point, you are completely financially independent. Do what you want with it. But remember, the biggest thing is you've grown addicted to watching the balance of your debt go down. Now we need to switch that mind shift to getting addicted to watching your balances grow in your investment accounts.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a new and exciting game to play. You know?
It is. Yeah. You're moving to a completely different game. But what I would preface our listener to do is don't just get addicted to watching your savings grow in a savings account.
No. Yeah, no.
You cannot save yourself to retirement. You have to buy assets. And what assets you choose, whether that be real estate, stocks, bonds, whatever it is, whatever is right for you is right for you. And we've done podcasts on every single gamut at this point. More continue to come. Whatever you choose, you want to buy assets. You want to buy things that put money in your pocket. Having money in a savings account might put a little bit of an interest in your pocket, but it's so minuscule compared to what you could get by investing in higher returning assets. You want to make money while you sleep. The best way to make passive income is to buy assets.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're not going to beat inflation with savings account, right?
Typically you're not, no, because the only time that a high yield savings account is going to be high is when inflation is high. For example, right now, high yield savings 5%. Accounts 4-5%. Inflation 5-6%.
Yeah.
You're always losing to inflation. That's why you want to buy assets.
Yeah. Simple as that. It's simple as that.
So to our listener, big hugs from Arizona. Congratulations again on paying off all your debt. $2,500. You're almost there. Please, once you get that, celebrate the wins. Go out, have fun, have a party, go eat pizza, do whatever you want.
Handles.
Have fun, but make sure that you set up a budget for how much fun you can have and just stick to it. Again, if you're worried about it, you don't have to worry. If you're not worried about it, you should be worried. So you're going to be just fine. Stick to the 9-step process. If you don't know the 9-step financial order operations, please go to episode 44 of the Fi Guys, where we discuss all of those options for you. And we're here for you. Send you big hugs from Arizona.
Good luck, man.
You got this.
Alrighty, so this is our third and final segment of today's podcast. This one's our shortest segment yet. Oh, we do a little bit of a win of the week. Can you guess what it's called? It's called win of the week. With that being said, should we flip a coin? Who wants to go first? You want to go first, or should I go first?
Okay, do you have a coin?
Hold on, I got you. Flip a coin. Heads. I'll be heads. Anyway, so my win of the week is last week I had these amazing tacos, and if you know me, and if you were listening and paying attention to the early part in the podcast, you know I love food. God has blessed me with a halfway decent metabolism, so thank God for that. That, and I go to the gym 5 times a week. So, I mean, you know, there's that. I also work out like a dog. But I recently tried some, and I'm going to butcher this, and I'm sorry, but they're called birria tacos. Very Mexican, very traditional. Not what I'm used to. Right? I made some tacos earlier. You know, refried beans, some chicken. Not the craziest tacos I made. But recently, I've made these stellar birria tacos with my mom, and I cannot wait to make them again because they turned out amazing. Took a while to make, a little bit pricey, but listen, I can eat on that for a whole week. And we talking about Taco Tuesday? I'm talking about taco end of the month. To the end of the month, honestly. So nice. We're sitting good on food over here. What was your win of the week, Chris?
So I actually have two wins this week. In October, my wife and I are going to go to New York. We're going to stay at the Grand Central, or the Hyatt Grand Central Park, or whatever it is. It's a very nice hotel. We got all that on points. So we decided while we're in New York, we need to go and see a Broadway show, right? Because I've never been to New York. I've never been to New York.
It's cool. It's trippy.
I'm excited.
I'm not sure how you're gonna like it because it's definitely like a different type of people. They're not very kind.
That's most of the East
really
Coast.
is.
Sorry, people from the East Coast, like, we love you.
They're so rude. They're so rude.
Rude.
Where's my small town America? Like, I need little mom and pop shops. Yeah. I went to see a Broadway show. You know me. Oh my God. What am I gonna do with a Broadway show? I'm not gonna do any. I don't need that. Let me tell you, it was so cool. It was real cool. I cannot wait. Do you know what you're gonna see?
Yes, I do. And that's what I'm most excited about. So me and my wife, we debated for a while, like, what do we want to go see? And there's so many Broadway shows, right? And we're going to the place. And so many of these Broadway shows have been turned into movies, or they're based off of books. And I was like, I don't want to go and see something I could watch in the movies. If I'm going there, I want to watch something that I can only see in theaters. So we're going to be seeing the Book of Mormon.
Really?
Because that is only in theaters, and it is supposed to be a comedy. And I love comedies, and I love South Park. So that'll be very fun to watch. And then we were also able to get front row mezzanine seats. So
right on the deck,
top row, the center front row. Yeah, we were thinking about taking the front row in like the front orchestra, but then you can't see anything.
No,
you can't,
like, too close up the whole stage. Those are the money seats.
Yeah, so we're gonna be
the money seats.
Yes, they're the most expensive. They were the most expensive seats, and we were thinking about using points to do it, which we could have done, but we looked at using our Capital One points to purchase the tickets, and we saw that the redemption value was only at like 1 cent per point. Sometimes if you purchase through the right ticket thing, they'll code buying your tickets as travel rather than entertainment. So I purchased it with one of my credit cards. It gives me 3 times the points on travel. And we're going to see if it codes as travel and then gets me 3 times the points for the amount we paid on the tickets, which is higher than I wanted it to be, but it's okay. I mean, we're only going there maybe once.
Yeah, we say once right now, and then you hooked on Broadway. Like, Chris, we're recording the pod. Like, I'm on Broadway right now. I'm going to another show. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like I've been to more places outside traveled to more places outside the U.S. than I have inside the U.S. So it's exciting to go to a new place. And then I have another one that you don't mind me bringing up too. And this is a financial one. So hopefully you guys are stuck around because this is going to be a big one that I recently learned. How many of us are tired of getting those stupid Visa gift cards that are preloaded with $25, $50, or $100 that at the end of it, you have $3.25 on it. And you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this dumb card. Well, hopefully you stuck around till now because I'm going to tell you exactly what to do with those cards. We were recently doing our spring cleaning and I found a bunch of those cards, each with them with like $11, $5, and a bunch of like random little things. And I was trying to figure out what am I going to do with these dumb cards? So I found a hack. You go to Amazon.com. In the search bar, you search Amazon e-gift card. Then from there, there's selections of $100, $25, and $50. There's also another selection for other. Each one of the cards, so say I had a card that was $11. I put in other $11. And then it says, you want to email or text it? I texted it to myself. So I put my own phone number, texted it to me. And then for payment, I put in the card, the card that only had $11 on it. I put in the card number, expiration date, and then for recipient or for the name, I put card recipient, which was on the card. Processed the payment. It went through. 5 minutes later, I get a text from Amazon saying, hey, Chris sent you $11 worth of a thing. So then I was able to apply that $11 to my next purchase with Amazon. I did that with all of my cards, got rid of all of those dumb little things. And it ended up having like $30 in cards that I never would have used because they each had like $4, $5. I just sent them to myself. I texted myself like 5 times. So it took me like 20 minutes to do this, but 20 minutes for $30 and to get these dumb cards out of my life. And I was able to apply them to my next purchase on Amazon.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty,
yeah. So cool little life hack. I already purchased it. We purchased some grass-fed whey protein because I have trouble getting all the protein that I need because I only eat once a day typically. So, and my wife, since we're trying to get pregnant and everything, we're trying to make sure that we're sticking up on like her getting her nutrients and everything. And she doesn't eat a lot either. She's very small. I'm not small. I'm quite large.
Chris is jacked. See, I mean, you guys, hopefully you might not ever meet him in person. Maybe you will. I don't know. I don't know if we want to be approached, but Chris is jacked. Bro has huge arms. It's very deceiving on camera. Very deceiving. Sorry to interrupt. Gotta hype you up a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. But my wife's very small too, so we went ahead and got some grass-fed whey protein, unflavored, so like no extra carbohydrates. Just trying to stick like as lean and as possible as we possibly can. So we bought one yesterday, and it took off a good portion of that thing off Amazon, and it showed up today. So I already took some. Already used it. Gonna get even swollen now.
It's gonna cut through doors sideways. Like, yo, Dom, we're gonna have to put me at full screen. I can't fit in this tiny little box anymore. That's awesome.
Yeah, I got my like my rock tattoo. Well, mine's different than his, and mine's far more extensive than his.
Way cool.
But, yeah, you can call me the pebble, but one day I will be the rock.
You're gonna be the boulder. Let's go. Well, guys, that's gonna be it for our podcast for today. I don't even know how long. We want an hour on this one. How about that? I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. If you did, which you should have, because you're still here, make sure to like the podcast, like it, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and most importantly, leave a comment for the algorithm. What was your favorite part? Have you tried the tacos? Which show would you recommend on the Broadway? What do you do in New York?
Have you been to Handles?
I'm googling it. I'm googling it right after this. We're gonna get some ice cream. It's not built yet, but
we need some ice cream. They're building it. It says coming soon, so it'll be done soon.
That's a good area. That whole area. Yeah, we won't dox our current location, but very excited about all the food coming in. But yeah, guys, make sure remember the fee for the show. Tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your father, tell your son, tell your daughter. That's a good little rhyme there. Good lord, it should be on Broadway. Anyway, tell a friend because it's going on this financial journey. It's way better when you go with a friend. Way better. And you'll actually do it. Let's be honest. Going alone, who's holding you accountable? Could be you. Maybe you're that person where you're like, I got myself. But it's always good to go with a friend. I know me personally. I love going with a friend. It's way much better. Well, it's like going to the gym, right? If you just tell yourself, I'm going to go to the gym every day. Well, you might fail yourself. But if you have a gym buddy and you guys are meeting at the gym, and you know if I don't show up at the gym, then my buddy's going to be sitting there alone and sad. There's far more likely to show up. So tell somebody about the Five Guys. Listen together, listen apart, and then talk about it. It's not by listening to the ideas, by engaging in the ideas that financial independence is going to come into your life. Money is not that hard. If you choose to engage on the easy concepts of money, you're going to have a great life. Or you can try to engage only on the hard parts and disregard all the behavioral parts. You're going to have a very hard life. Absolutely.
Money is easy if you want to figure it out. and just focus on what's important, which we focus on here on the Fi Guys for a nuanced discussion about finance. Tune in, tell your friends, and we'll always be here for you. And with that, we will see you next week. Hope you had a great Friday. If you're listening on Friday, great weekend. We love you. Later.
Peace. Later, guys.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.